Hello, welcome to Sideways. This week we're talking about the impact too much alcohol can have on your memory. Martin introduces me to the concept of moonbathing. We hear about a worrying danger of food deliveries, ponder on the merits of being good at giving speeches, and consider writing and sharing eulogies for one another whilst we're still alive to hear them. Now, this is our last episode of 2023, so whatever you're doing over the festive period, whether you're celebrating Christmas or not, we want to wish you a happy and peaceful time. Thank you for being with us this year, and look forward to being back with you again in a couple of weeks. Memory loss.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Back to a Sunday morning, and it seems like 2 minutes ago we were recording the last one.
Yeah, it's because it was virtually 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, we managed to get it sorted out though in time. Luckily,
yeah, I did.
You did some good editing, didn't you?
Well, I did. I didn't do much editing, if I'm perfectly honest.
No.
There were bits that I sort of vaguely remembered that I skipped through. So if anybody said fuck or bugger, apologies to anybody who's listening.
Okay, you going to edit that bit out?
Nah.
No, leave that in. Well, it was strange because we sort of realised just before it was going to go out that we'd already the episode was interventions, and that we'd already done one on interventions. Yeah,
not only had we already done one on interventions, but it was only about 6 months ago.
It was. Well, yeah. I mean, it's which is. In my defence on this, I've got to look back on it because I put the notes together. I look back at the notes from the episode in May and on my Excel spreadsheet, and I'd recorded it as changing other people. That was the title that I'd originally gone for on the.
So I called it interventions,
and you called it interventions. So basically,
so you're gaslighting me, is what we're saying.
It's your fault. So when I saved the one we did last week as interventions, it didn't flag up. There's already one called that. There wasn't one already called that.
Yeah, so, you have to be in charge of both the naming convention and the note writing, but unfortunately, you're only in charge of half of that.
I am, yeah. So that's where the communication error came in.
Well, it's interesting because. You're kind of on the defensive there. I suppose you were anticipating that I was going to be critical of you for choosing the same subject to us, which I wasn't. But now that you've defended yourself, I'm going to call this week's interventions as well.
Well, that'll work it quite nicely because I've got it down as memory loss. So.
There you go. Was memory loss prompted by doing 2 episodes on interventions?
Absolutely right, it was. Yeah, I thought, and that was before I discovered. Because when I went to save this one, I thought, well, there isn't one called interventions after all. So I was sort of making an apology or going in and doing this episode on memory loss, and I didn't really need to. In fact, when I read back through my notes from the May episode, there was very little overlap anyway. We touched on interventions. Mm-hmm. It was mainly about our desire to change other people.
I usually just call episodes whatever I feel like calling them.
You do, yeah, and you've got maverick attitude.
It doesn't necessarily bear any relation to what the episode contains.
As it turned out, no. Mm. But I thought it would be quite nice then to do, well, not just memory loss, but the alcohol-induced memory loss, how it affects the brain and what it does.
There'll be a lot of that around this time of year.
Well, exactly that. But before we start, there's a couple of things. I came across something that I'd never heard of before. Or perhaps I'd forgotten it, or perhaps you changed the title of it. But I stumbled across this article about moonbathing. Have you heard of that?
No.
Moonbathing. It's similar. It's similar to.
Is it like sunbathing? Only you get less of a tan.
Absolutely right. It's the same principle as sunbathing. I mean, the moon is reflected sunlight after all, isn't it? It hasn't got its own power source, so it's reflective sunlight. Mm. And I'd never heard of it.
Isn't it?
Sorry?
It's cuckooing. It's a cuckoo, really.
It is really.
When it comes to sun.
It's nicking. Really, yeah, it's just taking the glory off of another celestial body, isn't it? When I just briefly heard about it, I thought, I've got to have a look at this. I went onto the Natural Health website, and apparently moonbathing has been going on for thousands of years. It's also called Chandrasnana. It's a weird name it's also got, but anyway, it goes back a long time. Same principle as sunbathing. But you go outside, obviously, when the moon is in full view.
Yep.
It's best, apparently, when the moon is waxing rather than waning.
Is it?
Yeah, obviously the power is getting stronger then as it depends. I suppose it depends which day you go out. But it says you can do it with your clothes on or off.
Oh.
Yeah. So can you imagine doing that in the UK in the middle of winter under a full moon?
Well, certainly not with your clothes off.
No, I know. I imagine.
I was thinking if you have to do it under a waxing moon, I was wondering, if you go actual sunbathing, then quite often people will wax, won't they, before they go sunbathing? But there's probably no need to wax before going moonbathing.
No, I mean it's a strange thing, isn't it? But I was just thinking, if I did it in the communal gardens here, for example, laying out there naked, can you imagine what the fuss would come up at?
Well, yeah, it would be. I think there would be words exchange, wouldn't there? Having said all that, though, and this won't surprise you at all, I would prefer to go moonbathing than I would sunbathing.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to sit I don't want to be naked. No. I don't even want to be in my bathers.
No.
Unless it's midsummer.
Yeah.
But I'm quite happy to sit outside in a deck chair with a little bit of watery light, reading a book under the moon.
Yeah. Fine. That's all right. I mean, there are benefits to it. Which is why people do it.
Right.
Apparently, it's good for the purification and emotional well-being. Yeah. So the purification of your body, effectively emotionally. Mm-hmm. It reduces heat or reduces excess heat, which I
bet it reduces heat in the middle of winter if you're outside in your undies.
In the snow. But it reduces anger and imbalances from the body system. Apparently, it calms your, and I don't know, I can't really pronounce this, I think, but pitta dosha.
Does it?
Yeah, have you calmed your pitta dosha today? No, you haven't.
I used to get those down the kebab shop in Union Street.
That's what it sounded like, didn't it? But it gets rid of, it helps with hypertension, migraines, hives, rashes, and other inflammatory diseases.
Excellent.
Inflammatory conditions. So
I might get the old hammock out under the moon then.
Can you imagine that? Yeah. It'd
be lovely. But to be honest, I've not really seen much of the moon recently. It's been pretty cloudy, hasn't it?
It's been pretty rubbish. I
might have a look later. Let's see when the next opportunity for a bit of moon bathing might be.
Probably in the summer. I wouldn't want to lay outside. I mean, it'd be quite nice laying out in the hammock in the moon, under the moon on a lovely warm evening.
Yeah.
But no, not at the moment. I mean, they don't have. I was just thinking. I mean, because they have sunbed shops, don't they? But I haven't seen any moonbed shops. Have you?
No, maybe there's a gap in the market there.
There's another gap at the. We'll set our first one up next week.
Yeah, it's certainly worth thinking about, isn't it?
It is. Well, apparently, I think women tend to get more benefits than us men from moonbathing. It sort of regulate. Yeah, it can regulate. You can sync your menstrual cycle with the moon, and it's supposed to regulate it and make it better. So, yeah, look, there's lots.
So people can't complain that they don't learn anything on this podcast, can they?
No, even though it's completely probably useless, but.
Well, I bet there are a lot of people out there who absolutely swear by a bit of moonbathing.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from one, wouldn't we?
We would. I reckon, I don't know, and this may be just my natural bias, but I'm imagining that people who like moonbathing probably enjoy things like cold water swimming as well.
Yeah.
They feel as if they're of a piece.
Yeah, I think so. I imagine that people that are probably more leaning towards paganism or that sort of thing, or ritualistic stuff outside.
Right. Okay.
At night.
Well, if you like a bit of moonbathing, then let us know.
Should we go on to the subject matter?
Yeah, let's.
Talking about memory loss in the brain. I mean, it's well known that alcohol has an effect on the brain. It's a mind-altering drug, isn't it? By definition.
Yep.
And when I was doing the research, I was looking at the effect that it has on memory, in particular, which can be quite dramatic. I mean, I think most of us, and you probably fall into this category over the years, have had hangovers and we've had sort of patchy memories of the night before, and people would tell you what happened, and remember it, sort of thing. I think that's sort of the baseline. It has had a short-term effect on your memory. The next level up from that is alcoholic blackouts, and there's two types of alcoholic blackouts. There's the one which is similar to what I just illustrated, where you have sort of islands of memory. So it's sort of patchy. but they're not always in the right order and not in a complete timeline. And they sometimes call that a brownout or a grey out rather than a full blackout.
Right.
So it's just, it is that patchy memory, but you've lost bits of memory. And then you get the full blackout, where you're so intoxicated that memories aren't even formed. So you can't, and they can't be recovered. It's like it never actually happened.
Like you had for like a decade.
Well, I had times when that happened. Mostly it was patchy, but the full blackouts are obviously it's no defence in law, and we've had people come into groups where they've had these blackouts, committed crimes, and had no knowledge of them. They suddenly get arrested a couple of days later, or a letter turns up. They don't know what it's all about.
Right.
They have to go and find out and say, well, you did this or you did that. They had absolutely no knowledge at all.
Yeah.
But as I say,
that must be pretty unsettling. I can think of, I've worked with people in the past who, the trigger for them coming into therapy has been exactly that sort of thing happening. When I go out, I tend to get blind drunk, and then I can't remember what I've done the following day, and it creates an enormous level of anxiety in me. So sometimes, I don't know if you've seen this, but sometimes that appears to be the point at which people say, crikey, I've got to sort this out now, because what the hell am I going to do?
No, it tends to be that sort of people that come to groups tend to go way past that anyway before they seek help.
Right.
It's probably people that perhaps don't drink as regularly on that basis. With when you get full blown alcoholism, and then you drink the next day anyway, so you will black out periods. And if you can't remember stuff, you just black out the current stuff you're doing, because you don't want to remember that you can't remember stuff. It's into this horrible cycle.
Yeah.
So but no, it is. If it is a trigger for people to get help, I think that's great. Hangovers are really your body telling you they're trying to get rid of the poison, aren't they? And this is not good.
Yeah, it's more, but I think those instances are kind of more than I've had hangovers, but there haven't been many times in my life where I can't remember what I did. But I suppose, if routinely you're going out and then losing all of your memory of the night before, that is an indication there's something wrong.
Yeah, there is, and I think it's when a crime occurs that you don't remember. That's when people would start to think, well, we'll get help more.
Yeah.
If there aren't any ramifications of your behaviour, then
the thing that I've experienced most frequently is where people are noticing that their relationships are being damaged by it. That their friends are not wanting to go out with them, or they've said things that have offended people that they really care about.
Yeah.
And as you say, I guess if you're banging into your alcoholism, that's a stop that is kind of way back. But it is pretty good, I think. It's if that is something that's happening to you, that is an indication that you are definitely on the wrong side of dependence, isn't it?
Yes, you are. You are. You are on the road to ruin unless something happens. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Now, I watched a YouTube video on this when I typed in memory loss via alcohol. And there's some interesting points on there. Some of them weren't very good at all, but some of them were okay. But one of them touched on quite an interesting point. They started off when addressing this particular issue, but they started talking about the legal limits of not the legal limits, the safe limits of drinking. We have a 14 unit recommendation by the government in this country now.
Yeah.
They were saying that obviously that sort of the research is often done by the World Health Organization. So it's that sort of info is given out to the world, and then the governments will introduce it. And they were quite concerned that we've got 14 units in the UK, but in Chile and the US and China and other places, it can be up to 50 units. Which is seen as the safe drinking limit. And they said that, and this is based upon the same research and the same knowledge, but it comes down to the influence of the alcohol industry in those particular countries. They're way stronger.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the alcohol lobbies.
I'm sure I've read research recently in the last 6 months that's suggested that actually the safest drinking level is zero.
Is not. Yeah, that's right.
Because there was quite a lot of stuff, wasn't there, going around saying that, a little bit of alcohol every day is quite good for you, a glass of red wine or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that there's quite a lot of evidence now to challenge that.
There is. Absolutely right. Yes, you can find that. And I did come across a number of papers on exactly that. Is the only safe limit 0? And in some of these studies, there's one study I was looking at where they followed, it was 550 people over 30 years. So it's quite a long-term project, really. And they were looking at people with different levels of drinking, and they tested them every 5 years and did cognitive word memory tests and latterly MRI scans that weren't available at the start of the project, but are available now. And unsurprisingly, for those that drank regularly, the hippocampus in the brain, which I like saying that word, it's a
great
nice
word, isn't it?
It is, and it's one that I rarely get to use. So it's nice to say that the hippocampus in the brain, and that's responsible for the memory. That's part of the brain. It is responsible for memory, and that shrank. And the connectivity between left and right side of the brain became impaired. So, and obviously, the heavier the drinking, the worse, the more severe the shrinking was. So you could see physically on the MRI scans that part of the brain. Now, some of that would be down to aging, but they found it obviously in the younger ones, which not normally down to aging. It still showed quite significant signs of shrinkage for those that were drinking regularly.
I bet your hippocampus is the size of a walnut then.
It's below that. Yeah, hazelnut size.
If you want to get the word hippocampus into your vocabulary more regularly, you could work it in. I reckon you could, try using a phrase like, instead of saying I can't remember, say I'm experiencing a temporary hippocampus failure.
And people would just look at you, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but you'll be happy because you'll be using a word that you don't feel as if you have very much opportunity to use.
No, you're right, but it's probably like one of those word games you play, trying to put something into a sentence when you're out. I think it's the sort of games you used to play when you're drunk, wouldn't it? So we'll try and work that into a conversation with someone,
Yeah, or you were challenged to put it in a presentation at work.
Yes, yeah, that often used to happen, didn't it?
I bet you get a lot of points for hippocampus at Scrabble.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Not even sure you could make it with all your letters, could you?
How many letters are in there?
I think do you only have 7 letters?
Yeah, there's more than that.
Well, you'd have to build on someone else, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you
would.
Someone
would have had to have made camp.
Yeah, or
you could put hippo-us on there, couldn't you?
Hippo and then us on the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could squash it in. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll try that later.
It depends whereabouts on the board it is as well, doesn't it?
It'd be good if it was over a triple word score, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Because they were talking about this, when the left and the right side of the brain being impaired, and the hippocampus shrinking. They explained it's the transfer of information from short to long term memory that gets ruined. So they described it as it's similar to like Amazon losing your parcel in transit. So you order something and it doesn't turn up when you're expecting it. So that's and again, moderate to heavy drinking causes this stopping of this transfer. So you're not making the memories, and they're not being lodged anywhere. I mean, I know that certainly when I was in detox, and certainly the rehab course that I did afterwards, they were saying that it's going to take a while for you to get back to. You won't get back to exactly how good your memory was before, but you'll get reasonably good. It does start to repair, but I still find mine patchy. And it's annoying sometimes. And most people that I speak to that in groups have a similar experience. But again, it could that might have been age as well. So it's not just down to the drinking, but it seems to be quite prevalent amongst us people that have had alcohol issues. So that's when it gets to that stage, there is a syndrome attached to it. So when it gets very bad, when it gets to this point where you have these blackouts and you're impairing your hippocampus. And they call it, and I think we have touched on this before because I remember it from a previous episode, that there's a syndrome called Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is sometimes known as wet brain, as I think we've probably...
Wet brain?
Wet brain, have you heard of that phrase?
No, I haven't, but it's a great name for a band.
Wet brain, yeah, well, it's bandied about. It is a phrase that's used, but it's not encouraging, or it's not encouraged to be used because it has a stigmatizing effect.
Yeah.
Stigmatizing... It sort of gives the impression that it's a moral failing, that you've brought this disease upon yourself, rather than it being a disease.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually, I looked at that because I thought I quite like saying the name Wernicke-Korsakoff,
I can't help you getting that into conversation. Sorry.
No, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rimsky-Korsakov. Was that was
Yeah. I couldn't really even help you get that into conversation.
No, it's not easy. But apparently, there's two conditions put together. There's Wernicke's encephalopathy and Korsakov's psychosis. So when you put them together, this is what you get.
Nice.
But do you remember encephalopathy? It's a bit like mad cow disease. Remember BSE was an encephalopathy, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's quite good. You've said that word 3 times now, and I don't think you've tripped up.
The last one, I think I may have said it slightly wrong, but we used to call it BSE. Do you remember that? Do you remember the mad cow disease going on?
I do, yeah.
It was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't personally particularly affected by it, but yeah, I mean, if you were a farmer, I should think it was absolutely catastrophic.
But there was
I can remember John Selwyn Gummer, who I think was the farming minister at the time.
Was he?
Saying that he still fed his children beef burgers.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, a bit like Boris Johnson saying he was shaking hands with COVID patients.
Yeah.
I don't know what all that sort of bravado's about.
No, I don't. But I know that they were all worried about it leaping species, weren't they, when BSE was on the news every day? They're frightening us, saying it could leap over to humans and all sorts of things. Yes. But basically, that's a lack of thiamine or vitamin B1, because but if you have injections of that helps to reduce the chances of this syndrome you've either getting it in the first place, or if you have got this syndrome, it helps to reduce the effects of it. Because I remember, the injections hurt. I remember having them in detox.
Did they?
Yeah, they did it in your rump. it really hurt.
In your glute.
Yeah, well, yes, that's probably a nicer word to put it. Or a nicer word.
You
to
said
use.
rump because you'd been thinking of mad cow disease.
Exactly that. Yeah, so I was in that frame of mind. But yeah, they do hurt. But it's part of getting your thiamine levels back up.
Yeah. Nice. I've got a horrible image in my head now. I want to try and get rid of it.
Yeah, okay. We'll just move on to the next bit, which was the last bit, really. I mean, again, looking at other studies, because I looked to try and find, the link between, drinking alcohol at a high level and what happens further on down the line when you give up. But it still has. I've still got much higher risk of dementia happening.
Have you?
Well, yeah. Anyone that continues to drink, mine's reducing now, and it has reduced a lot over the years. But yeah, there's a definite link between high use of alcohol and dementia. And if you look up on the Alzheimer's Society website, it gives you those links as to what they are.
You're going to have to keep an eye open for leaving the gas on and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, or doing episodes which we've already done.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It could be early on.
I'll give you the nod if I notice any telltale signs, because as you know, my mother-in-law sadly had dementia. So
yes. Anyway, that's me pretty much wrapped up on that. I think it's something we should be aware of over the Christmas period. In fact, just a quick little anecdote here as well. It's one of the guys that comes to groups, Timmy. Timmy Moore. I did get his permission just to tell you this. He's in not early stage. His recovery's going quite well. He's been going several months up. He might be up over a year by now. But anyway, he showed it. He put a picture on the group chat where I think it was Deliveroo had sent the wrong parcel to him. And can you imagine now what was in there that you wouldn't want as an alcoholic?
Drink?
Alcohol. Exactly that. Yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really bad.
I know. Do you remember we have done an episode on gifting of alcohol and how badly that can land. So this is a great illustration of that, where it's turned up in the house of someone who's got an alcohol problem.
That's really. I'd never really thought about the peril of misdelivery like that. That could be catastrophic.
Absolutely. I mean, he dealt with it exactly the right way. He put it on the group. Then I think he gave it to a neighbour to sort of hold on to or to deal with, and then they were just going to send him his proper delivery. So,
look, imagine though, if you'd ordered a Deliveroo, you're feeling a bit blue, and you thought, I can't be bothered to cook for myself tonight, and then some alcohol turns up. I mean, that's a classic trigger, isn't it?
Oh my God, yeah, it's where availability weaponises temptation to its limits, there, doesn't it? I mean, it's there, bang right in front of you. You just got to open it.
Crikey.
Yeah. So there we are. This is the last one that goes out before Christmas, isn't it? This episode.
It is, yeah. Because it'll be almost Christmas when this goes out, and then we're not doing one next week, are we?
No, we're not. We're not doing one until Christmas, till New Year's Eve. We're recording New Year's Eve. Yeah.
Yeah. We should do a live one on New Year's Eve for people who aren't going out because they've got an alcohol problem.
We can't do one with revelry going on in the background, can we? Really, clinking of glasses. So yeah, that's just about me, mate. I'm ready to move on to the gratitude list if you're okay with that.
I'm okay. Is it me this week?
You can go this week anyway. Yeah.
I think. Well, I'm grateful this week for Substack. Do you know what Substack is?
No.
Substack is a place or a place that resides on the internet for writing and writers.
Okay, I know you've mentioned it, but in the past.
Well, that's where I put my writing, and it's one of those places that seem to be increasingly rare these days, which is a kind of really supportive community. So there's lots of really interesting stuff on there, lots of really interesting writers that post stuff on there, and lots of people who are really supportive about the work that other people do. And it feels as if that's an increasingly rare commodity these days. You know, there's usually someone willing to tear you down or to troll you or to tell you you're rubbish or this is rubbish or complain about stuff. And so I think because it isn't like that, it's the kind of the antithesis of that in most cases. It's a very pleasurable place to hang around and read other people's work and put your own work. So
that sounds good.
I'm bigging that up this week.
Okay, well, I think Substack then is a good thing to be grateful for.
Yeah, go and check it out. If you haven't checked it out, go and have a look there, particularly if you like reading stuff, because there's stuff on all manner of subjects there, and a lot of it is really top quality.
Yeah,
you know, not necessarily my stuff, but a lot of other people's stuff.
Generally, yeah. Okay.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Okay, well, on the gratitude list for me, I've put this week that I'm grateful for that I finished my Christmas shopping.
Oh, nice.
Now, I know that you know how much I dislike this time of year and the angst that I get with purchasing presents and stuff.
Yeah, you're a proper flipping Grinch.
Yeah, I'm pleased that I've got it sewn up.
Over and done with?
Well, I've got to wrap it up, which is another thing that annoys the hell out of me, but I'm better off than I was this time at the start of the week, where I've got my final bits and pieces.
Well,
it's quite late.
Wrapping stuff up probably is a bit of a tricky one for you, isn't it? Because you don't really want to do it, but you'll have to do it properly.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas I'm quite okay doing my wrapping haphazardly.
Oh, well, you're right.
Wouldn't suit you, would it?
No, it wouldn't. No, I do have. It takes me ages, but it has to be about right. Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm pleased for you that you finished. That's good. You can have a day of rest.
The feature we talk about is 100 skills that every person should master.
Yeah.
The one I've picked off of the list this week is giving a speech. Now, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Should everybody master the skills of giving a speech? Well, I suppose giving a speech suggests a degree of confidence. It's quite good to feel a sense of self-assuredness and confidence. But whether everybody needs to be able to give a speech, not sure about that. What do you think?
No, probably not. I think certain people enjoy it and other people don't. I mean, I've been lucky enough to do best man speeches.
Yeah, me too.
I've done 3 of them, so I've had to.
I've done 3 of them too.
Yeah, which is quite. I've always enjoyed doing them. I've always enjoyed doing public speaking. I've always found it quite. I like the nerves beforehand, and the sort of the adrenaline that rushes when you're waiting for your turn. For example, you know it's coming in. You've got it. As long as you're prepared, I think they're fine.
Yeah, I agree. I've always enjoyed it, and in some ways, it's been a mystery to me that I've enjoyed it. But I think I've enjoyed it because, in many respects, making a speech is like acting, isn't it? It's like it's that you're playing a role in a sense. So I quite enjoy that. It's almost like a protection.
It is like a protection. I've always felt similar adrenaline before we used to go on stage with the band. Right. And you get those nerves and a bit tingly. And I used to get, am I going to remember the words? Am I going to mess it up? And as a front man, you've got a lot of responsibility on your shoulders as well. But I loved it. It was almost like showing off. And I think giving a speech sometimes is a bit like showing off. And I quite liked it.
Yeah, I didn't feel the same way about playing, really. I would be nervous about that, but I didn't feel the same. I think I always felt a pretty high level of confidence with speaking. I've always felt okay about that, but I never felt quite that way musically. So, yes, if I had to choose, I'd probably make a speech rather than sing a song.
Right, okay. Yeah,
but I don't suppose you're going to ask me to do either this morning.
Not at the moment, no, but perhaps at a later stage. But I thought it was an interesting one anyway, because a lot of people really hate it, will avoid giving a speech or standing up in public and talking at any cost. But I think that's their right, and I don't think it's something. I'd come down on the side of no, it's not a skill that every person should master.
Well, it is their right to refuse, but I can tell you, I get quite a few questions in the work that I do for the workplace mental health company. I get quite a few questions from people asking me how they can get over their anxiety about speaking because it's part of their job.
Right. Okay.
They have to stand up and give presentations or whatever. And so whilst I would defend anybody's right not to have to do it, there are some situations where you do need to do it. And if I could give one tip to people who have to make a speech, even though they don't really want to, and it's going to sound counterintuitive, my tip would be don't over-prepare.
Really?
Because when people, I mean, you're right, you said you've got to be prepared, and I think that's absolutely true. But when people are nervous about something like speaking, they practice and practice and practice and practice and prepare and prepare. And it gets to the point where you're undermining your own confidence, because if you keep going at it and keep rehearsing it and keep going over it and the message you're giving to yourself is, I don't know this, it's not going to be any good. And I think that you need to recognize there's a point at which you have to say, I've done enough, I'm going to be all right. And I think that makes quite a big difference to people's levels of confidence when they have to stand up and speak. So if you're worried about a speech coming up, do prepare, but don't over prepare.
I know. I hadn't really ever thought about it like that, but I suppose the speeches we're talking about, like best man speech, and I did a eulogy at a funeral last year, but I had notes in front of me, so there was no fear that I was going to forget something or anything. But again, that gave me quite a buzz in a different way. Doing a eulogy, because it was a tough one. I was quite sad, obviously, anyway. And it was a big funeral. There's a sort of 500 odd people there, so it's quite a big crowd. And I was quite pleased when it was over. But again, I sort of enjoyed it, really.
I don't think I've ever had to do a eulogy. I'm sure I did a reading at my father's funeral, but I don't remember ever having to do a eulogy. Didn't we talk once about what we'd say in one another's?
I think we did, yeah. Whether I've actually jotted it down or not, but for that use, I might go before you, so I might not know.
It don't really matter, does it? Because whatever, if I did one at yours, you wouldn't know, and if you did one at mine, I wouldn't know. So it don't really matter, does it?
Well, we'll get one together and read them to each other now. So whilst we're still alive,
that's a good idea. Like they did on Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing.
Did they do that?
I think they did. I think they talked about what they would say at one another's funeral.
Oh right, okay. No,
in fact, they did write a eulogy for one another.
Did they? Right. Okay. Yeah. Perhaps we ought to consider that. But we go on to the on this day in music, but which year? So a little quiz for you.
Yeah.
So the first one, which is always a number one. Do you know what year it was a number one in the UK? Ernie, the Fastest Milkman in the West by Benny Hill. I know one of your favourites.
Oh, right. It's going to be, I reckon that's going to be early 70s.
It must evoke childhood memories, this particular one. It does to me.
I'm going to go, I'm going to get this wrong, I think. I'm going to say 72.
Oh, you get a point, though, 71. So you're close, mate.
Okay, so that's pretty good. I was thinking between 70 and 73, so.
Yeah.
Good. Did you? Yeah, so I think I had that on 45.
I was going to say we were at an age, I think, where we would have thought, I like that single. And you'd ask your mum and dad to go and get it for you.
I've got a feeling it was my sister's, but I'm pretty sure we had it. Yeah. It
was a big seller.
It was released on Bell Records, as I recall.
Was it?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, there's some other artists on there which we can't mention these days, I think.
What do you mean, Gary Glitter?
That's him. Yeah. He was on Bell Records, I think.
He was, yeah.
The next part of the quiz is what year was someone born?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, they were born, it's actually the 2nd of December, so we're a little bit out. So they're both on the 2nd of December. But Britney Spears, you know what year she was born?
Right, Britney Spears.
I'd have probably been quite wildly out because I don't really know how old I would put her down as.
I'm going to go 87.
No, it's earlier than 81. So she's older than.
Blimey.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, that struck me as being older than I thought she was.
Oh, okay.
So Neil.
So that makes her 42.
Yeah.
Crikey.
Look at.
She is older than I thought.
Yeah.
I've never been a massive fan of Britney though.
No, nor have I. It's been interesting to see the sort of mental health struggles and issues she's been going through over the years. But no, I'm not a fan of her music particularly. Yeah, I should have gone a bit higher, I think, thinking about it. She's led a life, hasn't she? She has, yeah. Mm-hmm. And for deaths, do you know which year? One of my favourite people ever in the music industry, Pete Shelley from the Buzzcocks. He died at the age of 63. Do you know which year that was? This is going to be an absolute stab in the dark. 2013. 2018. So you're a long way out. I'm not that far out. I'm only 5 years out. I've done quite poorly there, haven't I? Well, yeah, tough, aren't they? They're always tough. Years are always tough, aren't they? Yeah. But when I was doing that, I was quite interested to see that. Do you remember Mental as Anything, the group Mental as Anything? I do, yeah. Yeah, well, their lead singer died in 2019, but I couldn't ask you that because it was quite a tough one. But I liked his name. I wouldn't have ever have heard of him. No, well, I liked his name. His name was Greedy Smith, which I quite like. So I just thought... Was he actually born? Was that his baptised name? You know, was it on his birth certificate, Greedy? Was he calling your child Greedy? I mean, if you're not setting them up for some sort of mental health challenge there, I don't know what it is. Yeah, I think you would be stigmatised. You're definitely getting an eating disorder if you're called Greedy. Something's going on, isn't it? Yeah. But anyway, that's about it, mate. All right. Well, it just leaves us to wish those of our listeners that are celebrating Christmas to have an enjoyable Christmas, and we'll absolutely see you shortly in the new year. I'd like to remind everyone to stay safe. Especially with those of us that are in recovery. We know this is a difficult time of year. Yeah. It can be very triggery. So be on your mettle. Yeah, and be careful about deliveries. You don't want those. Go and buy the stuff yourself. Exactly. You don't want any inadvertent Baileys turning up, do you? No, you don't. All right. Okay, mate. Laters. Bye. Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen. And we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.